G'day guys, how's it going? It is Jared HD here. Welcome to my predictions video for the 2019-20 Premier League season. Last season when I made this video, I actually did pretty well. I got Man City right, I got Liverpool right, and I got a lot of the table right. However, one side I unfortunately didn't get right was my favourite side, Fulham. But there will be no bias this season. Fulham are gone. We are now a championship side once again. It almost feels like we should be there. We're back where we belong. But there are 20 sides fighting it out, of course, this Premier League season, trying to become champions, trying to make European football, and for some, trying to survive. So we're going to go through all 20 sides, putting them in the Premier League table. Again, I always preface my prediction videos in this way, but this is just my opinion. If you disagree with my opinion, that is totally fine. Make sure you use your voice and state your opinion by leaving a comment down below. I'll be reading through the comments of today's video. I always read through the comments, but especially today's video because I want to see where I extra frauded my predictions. But anyways, we are going to jump into the predictions now, starting off in 20th position, and I have gone for Sheffield United. Now, I haven't watched a crazy amount of prediction videos ahead of this, but I would assume that most people are going to be going for Sheffield United in 20th. That's because looking at their squad and looking at the transfers they have made this pre-season, I don't think they have a squad that's going to survive in the Premier League. I mean, I've pulled up the Premier League website to look at who they've brought in, and no players really stand out for me as players that will keep you up. You've got Phil Jagielka in on a free, which is fantastic for experience, but will he stop you from getting relegated? I don't think so. Ravel Morrison, it's a bit of a risk, but I'm very excited to see how he performs. Then Dean Henderson back from Man United. Again, he was good for them last season. Hopefully for their sake, he can keep them up. Ollie McBurney from Swansea. There's no players that really stand out for me as players that are going to keep you up. There's been a lot of questions as well around the manager, whether he can do it in the Premier League. He's got the job done in League One and the Championship, but can he carry over these skills to the Premier League? That's the lowest question I have at the moment, because how are you meant to prove yourself before you get the opportunity? This is his opportunity, and I'm sure he'll take it with both hands, but whether he can keep this squad up, I don't know. Like, this Sheffield United side reminds me a lot of the Cardiff City side last season. They got relegated, and in all honesty, I think Cardiff had a better side than Sheffield do this season. So for that reason, I have gone for Sheffield United in 20th position. Now into 19th, it is a prediction that really hurts me as an Australian, because I have put Brighton and Hove Albion into 19th position. I think their luck's going to run out. And that hurts because Matt Ryan, the Australian goalkeeper, one of my favourite players in football, of course, their starting goalkeeper, he's going to have his work cut out for him this season. This is, of course, Brighton's third season in the Premier League since they came up, and I think it's going to be a bit of third time unlucky for them. Brighton started last season pretty damn well, but come 2019, they were absolutely woeful. I know I keep banging on about being a Fulham fan, but I was actually in London at Craven Cottage for the game between Fulham and Brighton. Brighton were 2-0 up at half time, and we ended up coming back and winning 4-2. And ever since then, they just went on a downward spiral. And I honestly think that this might be the year they go down. I mean, looking at the players they brought in, Matt Clark signed from Portsmouth, but immediately got sent back out on loan to Derby County. They've brought in Trossard from Genk, Richards from City, Freestone, Webster from Bristol, and Malpay from Brentford. Those aren't names that stick out to you. Of course, I am hoping to be proven wrong, especially with this Brighton prediction. I really like Brighton, but I think this is the season they will be going down. So Brighton, 19. And then rounding out the relegation battle. Now, this is a side that I think are either going to get in the relegation zone and go terribly, or are going to make me look like an absolute fool. So I'm sticking my neck out on the line for this one. But in 18th position, I have gone with Southampton. It's been a few interesting seasons for the Saints. They have gone from being a Europa League team under Ronald Koeman to now a pretty mediocre side. Last season, we all thought they were going to be going down, but they pulled a rabbit out of the hat last season. For me, this season, it'll all come down to how Che Adams performs for Southampton. Of course, he was the big money signing from Birmingham City. Will he be able to carry his goal scoring form over to the Premier League? That is a big question, and I feel like Southampton's season rests on that. They've also brought in Danny Ings to the club, which is a very sound piece of business there. He'll, again, if Che Adams doesn't pick up the load, then we can get in, or you can get in Danny Ings. He can get some goals for you. So goal scoring is where Southampton are going to rely on survival this season. If those two players don't perform, they're in for a big struggling season down the bottom of the table. Big challenge. But if those guys can score goals consistently, I will be more than happy to look like a fool. I could honestly see Southampton either finishing in the relegation zone, mid-table, even higher mid-table. So now we move out of the relegation battle into 17th position. I do believe this side that I'm about to mention will be in the relegation battle, but their business has been fantastic. In 17th position, we've gone for the new boys. We have gone for Norwich City. The reason why I decided to go for Norwich over Southampton, Brighton, and Sheffield United is purely because of some of the quality players they brought in. So I'll go through it. So Patrick Roberts from Man City, quality player, hasn't had a huge opportunity, but could really be a breakout signing for a breakout season for him. Josip Dermich from Mönchengladbach. That is some brilliant business. That guy could honestly tear it up for Norwich this season, could bang in goals, and if he's up front with Pukki, that could be a partnership to watch. Honestly, Norwich was so fun to watch in the Championship last season. I do remember I was watching their game towards the back end of the season against QPR at Carrow Road, and they were insane to watch. It was so fun, so high tempo. Whether they can carry that high tempo play over to the Premier League is a different question, but if they do, they could be real entertainers this season. But they also have gone ahead and strengthened their defense. Looking at their new goalkeeper signing, Farman. That is brilliant business. The Schalke goalkeeper didn't have the greatest season in the world with Schalke last season, but he is a player that knows how to get it done in a top league. And that could be a crucial pickup there for Norwich. Sam Byram as well from West Ham United, Premier League experience, a quality defender. They are clearly shoring up their defense for this season, and that is why I have predicted Norwich to not have a comfortable season, but survive relegation. 17. In 16th position, it's maybe a little bit of a controversial one here. It is Burnley. Burnley are known for being such a tough side to come up against. Like, they are the definition of shithousery football. They just drag out a result, grind out a result against you. But last season, I felt like they kind of lost that. They really lost their edge at home, I would say, at Turf Moor. And if they can't get that back, Burnley could seriously end up in the relegation zone. This time last season, Burnley were in the Europa League qualifiers against Aberdeen. Now they are relegation favourites, one of the relegation favourites in my opinion. Their business hasn't been inspiring, but it all comes down to Sean Dyche. He knows how to work this team. He's been at Burnley for so long. Can he help them survive? Can they get a little bit of consistency back into the side? That is going to be the difference between relegation or a mediocre season for them. But I can't see Burnley lighting it up like they did 2 seasons ago. Looking at their business, it's been alright. A few big pickups, or a few decent pickups in Eric Peters, Jay Rodriguez, Bailey, Peacock Farrell from Leeds might be alright for them. But I think a big player that has gone is Tom Heaton. He has gone to Aston Villa. We'll talk about Aston Villa a little bit later, but Tom Heaton, one of the more underrated goalkeepers in the Premier League. Fantastic piece of business for Villa, and that could really hurt Burnley. But again, for Vizza, for your sake, mate, I hope Burnley can shithouse some results this season. Grind out the season, but I think they are going to finish in 16th. Moving on now to 15th position, and I have gone for the Cherries. It is Eddie Howe's Bournemouth side. Bournemouth are a little bit like Brighton last season, where they started off very, very strong. In fact, Bournemouth started off as one of the strongest teams in the Premier League, but towards the back end of the season, they were absolutely woeful. 2019 did not be kind. It was not kind to Bournemouth. Like, I think at the start of the season, they were 8th or 9th or something, and they were there for a long time, but they ended up finishing near the relegation zone. And that purely comes down to their lack of defense. Like, Bournemouth are the type of side that can score hundreds of goals, but they'll concede 101 goals. So it is going to be crucial for Bournemouth, if they want to survive relegation this season, for them to really shore up their defense, make it a strong, tight unit. And looking at the signings, 2 players standout that can help that happen. You've got Lloyd Kelly from Bristol City coming in at left back. And then perhaps the most underrated piece of business this transfer window, it is Philip Billing, the Danish defensive midfielder coming across from relegated Huddersfield. And in that Huddersfield side, Billing was probably a shining light in a pretty crappy side. So of course they want to have him playing a defensive mid role, sitting back and really making sure the defense is organized. So those two signings are definitely a step in the right direction for Eddie Howe's side, but they need to make sure they really tighten up their defense and can start getting wins on the road, because I believe they had the worst away record in the Premier League last season. So you need to be picking up wins on the road. If they can really tighten up their defense, it should be another mediocre or even better than mediocre season for the Cherries. If not, they could really struggle. So Bournemouth, 15th position. Into 14th position now, we have gone for the final of the three promoted sides. It is Aston Villa. Villa are trying not to become Fulham 2.0, because we had a very similar off-season to them last season when we got promoted, spent a lot of money, got some bigger names into the club, and thought that was going to automatically keep us up last season, but obviously didn't keep us up. And Aston Villa have followed a very similar trajectory, but I honestly think that they will do better than us. I think Villa will survive somewhat comfortably. They have gone in for players that, yes, have a big name behind them, but really serve a purpose in their side, and they've done pretty balanced business in my opinion. Going through the list quickly, they brought in Jota from Birmingham, they've signed El Ghazi on a permanent deal, they've brought in Wesley from Club Brugge, which is huge, Courtney House from Wolves, Matt Targett from Southampton, great piece of business, Tyrone Mings, they might have paid too much for him, but if he shores up their defense and keeps them up, they won't care about how much they paid. They've also brought in Consta from Brentford, which is a good signing. Bjorn Engels from Stade Reims. Trezeguet from the Turkish league, I believe. Douglas Luiz from Man City. Tom Heaton from Burnley. And then Marvelous Nakamba from Club Brugge. Whether he's just a meme from the Master Buck series or not is a different question, but definitely some quality business done there. So purely off the back of that business, I think Aston Villa will survive. 14th position. Now in 13th position, I have gone for Newcastle United. And if you asked me to make this video 2-3 weeks ago, I probably would have had Newcastle in the relegation zone or maybe just out of it. But now, following some pretty tasty business, I've decided to put Newcastle in 13. Kind of frustrates me though, because Rafa Benitez left the club because they weren't willing to spend any money. He goes, Steve Bruce comes in, and they bring in Saint Maximum and Joelinton. Like, that makes zero sense to me, but you do you, Newcastle. At least you've signed some players. They also did bring in Jetro Willems from PSV Eindhoven. Or sorry, Eintracht Frankfurt. He used to play for PSV, but Eintracht Frankfurt in the Bundesliga. He's only here on a loan deal, but he could be another player that could really help them out this season. Newcastle, it really depends on whether Joelinton and St. Maximum can fire, but they're going to definitely add a new level of spark to this Newcastle side. Losing Iosi Perez and Joselu and also Rondon, or not being able to re-sign Rondon, might really hurt Newcastle, but I feel like they have kind of upgraded those flary sort of attackers for even better flary attackers. So I have gone for Newcastle in 13th. Whether they finish there or not is a different question, but Newcastle 13. I feel like I've been really uncertain with myself for a lot of these predictions, because when I look at the Premier League table, like there's sides that's probably 20th down to 15th, I would say, that can get relegated. Then I would say 14th to 10th are kind of all in a similar pack. 10th to 7th are in a similar pack. 6th to 2nd or 6th to 3rd are in a similar pack, and then 1st and 2nd in a league of their own. But anyways, we crack on to 12th position, and it is going to be Watford. Watford coming off the back of a fantastic season last. Whether they can keep that up or not really depends on whether Gerard Deulofeu is going to fire again, in my opinion. Because going through the Watford transfers, the players in, they really haven't signed anybody that stands out to me. They got Craig Dawson in, but is he going to make a difference? Is he going to take them to another level? I strongly doubt it. So honestly, if Watford don't fire, like if Deulofeu has an average season, I could honestly see Watford sliding down even further. Do I think they're going to be in the relegation battle? Probably not, but I don't know, I feel like I'm being maybe a little bit generous with that 12th prediction. They've basically retained the same side from last season, so whether they can keep that cohesiveness and keep that form that they displayed at times is a different question, but like I said, a lot of it rests on the shoulders of Gerard Deulofeu. Up now to 11th position, and I have gone for Crystal Palace, but I'm going to put a disclaimer on this one. This prediction changes for me if Wilfried Zaha goes. Zaha, obviously, their number one attacking outlet, a fantastic player. He's been linked with moves to Arsenal and Everton this window. Now that Everton has signed Moise Kean, I don't think he's going to go there, but if he does leave Selhurst Park, then I would really put Crystal Palace a lot further down the table. So the players coming in for Palace, Stephen Henderson, Jordan Ayew, which is decent, and then Gary Cahill. Didn't even realise Cahill had signed, but that's nobody really incredible. They lost Wan-Bissaka as well, which is a little bit worrying. So maybe just like Watford, I'm being a little bit too generous with the prediction for Crystal Palace. But Roy Hodgson has turned them into a pretty well-oiled machine. So I'm going to keep the faith with Big Roy and keep them in 11th. But again, like I said, if Zaha goes, then they go down further. Alright, so we move into the top half of the table now. 10th position, I have gone for the Irons. I have gone for West Ham United. For West Ham, I believe it all depends on whether they really get their transferred players firing. Like, they haven't done good business. They haven't done a heap of business, but I feel like they're definitely focused on quality over quantity. So 4 players in, they've got in Roberto from Espanyol, they've got David Martin from Millwall, I don't know who that is, Pablo Fornals, which is really exciting, from Villarreal, and then Sebastian Haller from Eintracht Frankfurt, who again could be very exciting. But then looking down the list of players out, a lot of players leaving the club. Marko Arnautovic, it's going to be really interesting. Can Haller replace Arnautovic, who did get a lot of goals for West Ham United, and really he added that extra little bit of, I don't know, brute force that I feel like is needed in certain sides, like a little bit of mongrel from Arnautovic. So I don't know where that mongrel is going to come from, but West Ham do have an overall exciting squad. Felipe Anderson's going to need to fire up again. I could definitely see Anderson and Pablo Fornals really linking up well together. But ultimately, I have gone for West Ham United in 10th position. Now, in 9th position, I have gone for Leicester City, the Foxes, the former Premier League champions, 9th position for them. Initially, I had them one spot higher, but I decided to put them down one spot just simply because of the departure of Harry Maguire to Man United last night. Of course, there are still a few days remaining in the transfer window, so they might get somebody with that money who can come in and really make their defense world class once again, but losing Harry Maguire is a big blow. Looking at the players they've brought in, James Justin from Luton, who's a quality youngster, Ayoze Perez from Newcastle, again, good business. Who else? Yuri Tielemans. Now, this is the one player who could really take them to the next level. Of course, he was at Leicester on loan last season. He was fantastic for the Foxes, so if he can get that form that he displayed last season back, then he could really impact their season in a positive way. But again, the big question mark I have around Leicester City is in their defense. Of course, they are an attacking orientated side. Brendan Rodgers and a manager known very much for his attacking play style, so I'm sure they won't have a lack of goals this season. I'm sure Vardy's going to get plenty of service, but the big question is, can they fill that gap in defense? That's the only question mark for me with Leicester this season. If they don't, they might even slip down further than 9th. If they do, maybe push for European football, but at the moment, my gut instinct is telling me 9. So we move into 8th position, and I have gone for Wolverhampton, the Wolves. So Wolves have gone in 8th position, and I probably would have looked to put them higher if it weren't for their European commitments. They are in the Europa League this season, and in all honesty, I don't think they have the squad depth to balance it. They haven't played European football in like 50 years or something like that, so they're a club that's not used to this situation. With a lot of the other big sides, playing European football really doesn't affect their season all that much because they have such a handy depth roster. But with Wolves, whilst they have done some incredible business, Patrick Cutrone in, Jesus Vallejo, who else they brought in? Raul Jimenez on a permanent deal, Dendonka from Anderlecht on a permanent deal, so they have done some decent business, but will it be enough to really help them balance European football in the Premier League? I don't know. I still think though they will have a fantastic season, especially for a club that is only in their second season back in the Premier League. But end of the day, I have gone for Wolves in 8. So we move into the top 7 clubs now. And rounding out this sort of 7th to 10th bracket, I have gone for the Toffees. I have gone for Everton. Moise Kean is an incredible signing. It's a signing you have to make, especially for Everton. Like, you've got a striker that has shown glimpses of absolute brilliance in Serie A with Juventus. He's got a great development, of course. If you're gonna grow up playing for Juventus, you're gonna know a few things that a lot of mid-table clubs wouldn't get you. The big question, of course, is whether he can convert his abilities into Premier League football. But for Everton, it was honestly worth the risk. It might turn out to be a brilliant piece of business. He might turn out to be a flop, but you have to go and take the risk. Everton have also done some brilliant business apart from Moise Kean. They brought in Leicester from Huddersfield, the goalkeeper who had a pretty decent season in a terrible side, so he'll be a handy backup there to Jordan Pickford. They've signed Andre Gomes on a permanent deal from Barcelona. He was one of their cult icons last season in the Premier League. He was only on loan last season. Now he's here permanently. I think he's going to provide another impact. Fabian Delph also coming across from Man City. He has real leadership experience. He was captain at Villa. He's won the Premier League with Manchester City. That's a very underrated signing. And then Jean-Philippe Nabman, or how we pronounce his name, the French defender from Mainz, a young prospect who can really turn into a world-class defender. Very excited to see him in the Everton defense this season. So a lot of positive signs if you are an Everton fan. Whether or not everything can develop and really help you have a fantastic season is a different question, but I feel like it's the start of a new era for Everton where they'll start to get these pieces together and then once again push for European football. Now we move into the top 6, and I have gone for Chelsea Football Club in 6th position, aside from West London. Of course, they have the transfer ban. They've brought in Pulisic and Kovacic, but lost a lot of players as well. Of course, most notably Eden Hazard. This was a very cautious prediction in my opinion, because Chelsea might end up pushing up higher. They might grow as a team and finish 4th, 3rd, who knows, but they might have a shocker. They might not be able to, they're not going to be able to bring in any defensive or any adjustment pieces come January, so they might slide all the way down to the table. A lot of question marks surround Chelsea's season, and that is why I have gone for them in 6th. It's a real good opportunity for Frank Lampard to get some tough experience. He's not going to have as much pressure on him, in my opinion, because the board's going to give him leeway knowing that this isn't really his side. He hasn't been able to put his stamp on the side, and there's the transfer ban, so it's a good opportunity for Lampard to experiment this season. And I know, even though I'm not a huge Chelsea fan, I will be keeping a keen eye on them just to see whether they are a shambolic mess or whether they can pull things together and really have a good season. But ultimately, I have gone for Chelsea in 6th. Now, between 5th and 4th, I was tossing up these two sides for a very, very long time. When I wrote this down 2 days ago when I did my predictions, I kept changing. I was doing a lot of research into these two sides particularly, but ultimately in 5th position, I have gone for Arsenal. Now, Arsenal's front three of Pepe, Aubameyang, and Lacazette, insane. The only thing that really worries me about Arsenal is their defense. Mustafi has become a little bit of a meme as of late, whereas, yeah, I don't know how they're going to go defensively this season. Socrates is decent, but they haven't gone out like some of the bigger clubs and splashed big cash on big name defenders. I think for Arsenal, it's going to be a case of them outscoring every team and just hoping they can not concede goals, but ultimately I think their defense hasn't improved whilst their attack has gone up another level. But that lack of defensive confidence, defensive reassurance is why I have put them in 5th and why I have put Manchester United in 4th position. And that signing of Harry Maguire really got them over the line into 4th position for me, because now their back line, it'll be what? Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof maybe, and then Luke Shaw you would assume with De Gea in goals. That is a pretty strong defense. Of course, the whole Romelu Lukaku, Paulo Dybala situation looks like it's over. It looks like Dybala's not going to United, so that's a big blow, I guess. Although, if they don't want to play for the badge, then why would you want them? We saw what happened with Di Maria a few seasons ago. Now, I have heard a few little rumours that Christian Eriksen is in advanced talks with Manchester United. So if they get him, that just takes them to a whole nother level. But yeah, overall, I'm very interested to see how Man United go this season. Marcus Rashford as well. Very interested to see if this can be a season where he continues to develop and becomes one of the elite strikers in the Premier League. But ultimately, I have gone for Manchester United in 4. Now, into the top 3. It's the usual 3 suspects from the past 3 seasons. The teams remaining, we have Liverpool, we have Tottenham, and we have Manchester City. And in 3rd position, I have gone for Tottenham. I feel like Tottenham have a brilliant squad. They have had a great squad for the past few years, and the fact that that core sort of group of Dele Alli, Harry Kane, they're going to have another season to develop together is huge. Now, if they lose Christian Eriksen to Manchester United, that would be a massive, massive blow for their creativity. But ultimately, I still think their side is good enough for a top 3 finish, but I do not believe their squad is good enough to overtake the likes of Liverpool and City. Bringing in Ndombele is such a big pickup though for Tottenham. He is such a highly rated defensive midfielder, so he should come in and really help them out a lot there. Filling in, I believe, I don't really know who they had at defensive mid last season. Was it Eric Dier or Eric Dyer? I cannot remember. But regardless, I feel like there is a lot of opportunity for him to be an absolute stud defensive midfielder this season. Their backline, once again, very, very strong. Losing Kieran Trippier, but ultimately, I don't think he's going to be a massive, massive loss. It was very hit and miss at times last season, but Tottenham, I feel like they'll probably go on a good run in the Champions League again, but I don't expect them to challenge for the title. At least when it gets down to the crunch time. They'll probably be in and about for the whole season, but they'll probably finish 10, 12 points off the title. So now we have 2 sides, Man City, Liverpool. Who's going to finish 2nd? Well, I'm going for the same as last year. In 2nd position, I am going for Liverpool. Liverpool, an insane side. There's no denying that. European champions. But comparing them to Manchester City, I still don't think they've done enough to overcome the hump. They've signed, that Vandenberg guy, whatever his name is, from the Zwolle in the Dutch league. They've signed Harvey Elliott from Fulham. Those are 2 signings that are going to be good for the future, but aren't going to help them challenge for the title or go closer to challenging for the title this season. Their squad, though, still insane. Van Dijk, of course, expecting another big season from him. A big season still from Firmino, Salah, and Mane. They're just a great side, but comparing them again to Man City, I don't think it's going to be a season for Liverpool to finally get that Premier League title, but I hope to be proven wrong. I do want Liverpool to win the title just because it would be absolute chaotic scenes, and I think social media and football Twitter would just blow up, not know what hit them. But ultimately, when I'm putting my thinking cap on, I have gone for Liverpool in 2nd. So now, obviously, 1st position, I have gone for Manchester City to win yet another Premier League title. The addition of Rodri in the offseason and also Angelino should be quite decent. Losing Vincent Kompany is going to bring back a little bit of experience from the side, but ultimately, their squad has developed. They've got another season of having this young core starting to get a little bit older. John Stones, Raheem Sterling starting to mature a little bit more. Kevin De Bruyne is going to take on a real leadership role as always. Fernandinho, it's a ridiculous side, and adding Rodri in that midfield just is not fair. And honestly, I do predict Manchester City to go deep in the Champions League this season. They've only just missed out the past few seasons, but I do expect Pep Guardiola to finally get them at least very, very close to a Champions League title. I don't know if they'll go all the way. I might even make another video on my Champions League predictions, but I have gone for Manchester City to win another Premier League title. So lads, those are my predictions for this upcoming Premier League season. Once again, if you disagree or have something to say about my opinions, make sure you let me know your opinion in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it. Scorpion kick that subscribe button down below if you are new around here. But most importantly, I hope you have a fantastic day. Enjoy the Premier League season. It has been Jared HD here. I am out. Peace.